I think you can, like, as the Patriots are currently constituted, you have a 53-man roster where in 2027, if you still have like 7 of those guys, I think that will probably be like the most that you're looking at, for better or for worse, right? Like, you sort of just have to look at how they're trying to strengthen the roster from zero, which is where we are right now. And I think honestly, they looked at the free agency market. I know a lot of Patriots fans are mad that they didn't really dip in there. I know that there was talk of Ayuk and there was, different things, but like, what's the point in getting Brandon Ayuk if when you're the Drake Mays of the world are going to start for you, which I agree, Mike, is the right thing to do. I think that's exactly what you should be doing. And I actually think he's going to be pretty good. Just I was, dubious on his on paper stuff because I didn't watch him a ton in the amateur game and the college game, but in his preseason performances, I mean, he kind of looks the business, to be honest with you. So I can see why the narrative shifted and why people started to have the conversation. I agree with you that he should have just been like, I fucking told you who the starter was already. Like, we don't need to keep having this conversation for all the reasons. You know what I mean? Like, that's the other thing. Like, I agree that it's frustrating because he didn't need to step in the puddle. Everybody saw the puddle coming and it's like, just go around it. But, he doesn't have to be a master of that. What he needs to do is he needs to get guys to get together and, singing off the same hymn sheet. Sorry to bring up the Bears, but I think it's an apt comparison. You guys have been watching
Please
Hard
do.
Knocks, I'm sure. Eberflus's style of coaching, very man management, very like walking around, making sure he kind of gets to know all the guys that they know he's like paying attention, this, that, and the other. He's a little bit of an aw shucks guy when it comes to like media management. That doesn't necessarily mean that he's a bad head coach. It just means that he's not going to be the most charismatic post-game press conference guy in the world, which you guys know full well isn't the most important thing. So, what you need is, and I understand you're a little bit in the dark right now too, because it could go either way. But what you need is to look at the positives, I think, because it's going to be easy to find the negatives with a bad team. The positives, I think, are there. I think Drake Maye looks the business, which I said. I still think Stevenson's a good running back. I think that there's some bright spots on your roster that you can sort of, manipulate into working for you over the next couple of years when you spend what is, I think, after what the Browns did today with restructuring Watson's deal, the second highest salary cap space in the league, right? So the world's your oyster at this point. They didn't go into the market because I think you build, and the Bears did this, and I think it really worked. I think you go into the market for your last few pieces. I think you go and you spend for your last few pieces once you've built up your roster through the draft. I think what's the name of the wide receiver you guys drafted?
Jalen Polk and Javon Baker.
Yeah. This is the deepest wide receiver class there's about fucking 35 good wide receivers in this wide receiver class. Like, you guys did the right thing. You went and you struck while the iron was hot in this draft class. I agree. Absolutely. You should focus on winning 2 to 3 to 4 games max in order to put yourself in a position to get what looks like a pretty deep offensive lineman and defensive lineman draft class next year. The trenches you build out. The one big mistake the Bears have made is we're weak as fuck in the trenches. Like we don't have our offensive line and our defensive line isn't deep and it isn't super talented. So we have, and it's like a lot of injury prone stuff. I think you build out from the trenches because you have a guy like Mayo in there who has that sort of insight. I mean, Ryan Poles was a fucking offensive lineman, so I'm not really sure what he's doing, abandoning that position core, but whatever. It's a different conversation for a different day. I think a guy like Mayo, building from this point, he's already made what I would consider the correct moves. Stay out of the market when you have no business being in there. I think would be a good fresh start, and draft well. And I think, I mean, look, I know we're always trying to get an hour show out of this stuff, but it's all going to come down to how good these quarterbacks you've drafted are, guys. Like, that's what it's all going to come down to, right? Like, you have to wait and try to give everybody their sea legs before you start building a team around this guy, because he's not even going to see the field this year, hopefully, if all goes according to plan, right? So, yeah, it's going to be frustrating. The media training stuff is going to be frustrating. That's, to me, though, that's just a coach finding his feet. I think you can give him a little slack on that.
I just think the worst part of it for me, sorry to jump in on you, Ray, is that it felt like they orchestrated a competition that no fan actually wanted or even thought was happening.
It felt naive.
Right. Because
they're young coaches. It's a young coaching staff.
You don't need to do that. Like, as a fan, it's
learned.
Great. It's great to hear that he's been outplaying Jacoby, as he should. Jacoby Brissett was not a top 3 pick. Drake Maye was. Like he should be.
But Jacoby Brissett is not there to win a quarterback competition. Is your point,
Right.
right? Like, and like, why
Yes.
invent one? Yeah, like,
Right.
yeah, I agree. I mean, it was a silly thing to do. I think that he kind of gets a mulligan when his team is this bad. Like next year's training camp's a different story. You know, he might get a different haircut and beard like Eberflus did, and the world's his oyster at that point.
My only worry though, Ray, is that like you bring, like we talked about this a couple weeks ago, is like you bring Jacoby Brissett to kind of just steady the ship and be a good mentor. So why create a controversy where you pit him against a rookie that he knew he was here to beat out anyway? And hopefully you just don't jeopardize that relationship. I'm sure I'm being over dramatic. I have a knack for doing that, but it just really pissed me off.
Well, how are you supposed to know what the QB room is like? You know what I mean? Like, you don't know how they're going to gel. Like, you just don't know how they're going to gel as personalities regardless. And I don't think Brissett's going to blame the fucking 22-year-olds for, you know, like a couple of strange like missteps in the media by his coach. Like, I mean, all things considered, I mean, the one thing that kind of pinged in my head is like the Jerod Mayo's set up to fail. Like, I wonder if he's like kind of the straw man here. If he's just if he's been asked to be the custodian of a couple of really bad Patriots seasons to just be like sort of showing the door when it's time to really have a roster that we're going to go somewhere with. You know what I mean? Because I mean, it's not a bad plan, because if Jacoby Brissett can actually show you something, or I'm sorry, if Jerod Mayo can actually show you something as a head coach with this roster, you have a Sean McVay type all of a sudden, right? Where it's like, how the fuck did he do that with the Rams last year? They were just bad, right? Like top to bottom. And then you realize, wow, great, we have a head coach. It's worse if he's given like this awesome roster that he fucking squanders, right? Learning lessons, you know, learning curve.
It's gonna be tough. It's gonna be real tough.
You just have to draft well. You know, you just have to draft
but
well.
that's okay. That's the thing, and it's like, and you know, Mike is trying to drill in my head that you know,
Bill's not here.
The guy's not here. It doesn't matter. I'm like, you got to give me a reason to trust that first. Like, just saying because he's not here.
All right, I'll give it to you right now. Bill wouldn't have drafted Drake Maye. You know how I know? He said it. So
right,
there you go.
Correct. Yeah, he probably would have drafted Joe Alt.
Yeah, it's already a new era. You know what I mean? It's already he would have traded down.
What we're seeing now, though, and you just said it a few moments ago about you build from the trenches out. So getting Joe Alt, or you know, maybe like a Rashawn Slater a few years ago, a Tyler Linderbaum who's been it was in Baltimore. Like you have all of that. You have to. I just hate having to figure out the team from drafting, because that's such an inexact science. Once again, it works in most regards. Once again, I just haven't trusted the player development. Once again, if it changes this year and guys start to develop there, great, awesome. But they've given me no reason to think that's going to happen. As far as the May being sat down for the year, and once again, what if they go through this year? Once again, yes, maybe you Jeff will come for LSU, as I've been mentioning, but say you don't get any other linemen but Will Campbell. I'm saying for next year. If that's the case next year. It's
that's an abdication of responsibility, because you need to get some guys in there to protect.
No.
Have a bottom three offensive line right now.
I hear you, but I'm saying that's a possibility, because it's just, once again,
we're all going to sound like Mike. if that
sure, that's fine. But it's just like, if the line still sucks next year, are you not going to play him?
No, you got to play him next year.
No, but that's the narrative. You're going to sit him, but so the line is perfect to play. Like that to me.
Okay, but I have to disagree with you slightly on in the sense that, like, you would be putting him out there to die this year. You would be putting him out there to die. That offensive line is atrocious. It's one of the worst I've ever seen. I like these guys. There's a couple guys on like in your second string rotation that wouldn't make the practice squad of a team with a top 10 line. It's bad. And just at this point, you're protecting your investment. Great offensive linemen don't grow on trees, but what they do have is a really, really high rate of scouting return. If most of the time, if you think that an offensive lineman is fucking sick coming out of college, if the experts in the NFL think that, they're usually right. These aren't huge busts that happen on the offensive line all the time. Like the intangibles they're able to read are there. There's just not that many guys that are really good is the problem, right? Like there's not that many unbelievable left tackles, right? That out there. There's not that many guys with like elite level footwork that can like protect you, like even with like weaknesses around him or whatever. Also, it's a super injury prone position. So it's like hard to fill that's those spots out. Quarterback, who fucking knows, dude? You know what I mean? Like, who knows? So you got to get him out there next year.
No,
so just to see what he's working with.
Absolutely, but it's like I don't need you to be Laramie Tunsil. Just be Nate Solden.
Sure,
like,
but you can go build an offensive line like that. You can go build an offensive line in seconds. You know,
yeah, because it's just like because what's the guy that y'all had over there for years? Oh, is he still there now? Is it Khalil? Ryan Khalil? Khalil is it Herbert? Like the guy you had over there at tackle?
I don't know.
I don't know, but either way, I mean, obviously, you know, your line is better than our line right now, but it's.
Is it? I don't know. I'm real fucking concerned.
Definitely. Stop it.
No,
definitely.
I know.
Yeah, but
I'm just a little worried.
It's just like it's amazing. I mean, once again, to me, it used to be the philosophy that you draft a lineman.
Cody Whitehair, is that who you're talking about? Cody Whitehair
again?
Cody Whitehair, the white guy.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe. But I'm saying, I just to me, it used to be like draft guys from the Big Ten because you know they were used to playing in big stocky guys. So I don't know what philosophy they have with it now. Once again, they drafted Cole Strange and Sean McVay and company fucking laughed. They laughed.
Right. Well, because Bill reached for Cole Strange.
Right. That's what I'm saying. It's just like whenever
but this dude, you're still so traumatized. Like this isn't.
Yeah, he can't hurt you anymore, dude.
He can't hurt you anymore. Listen, we were in agreement on this show for I don't know 5 years.
I was calling it for
bad GM.
So this is not something that was brand new for me.
But we were in agreement that Bill Belichick was a bad GM. I don't know the whole time, but at least for the last
5 years, yeah, it was awful.
You know, so like we knew that the only way to go is up in that sense because at least you went and drafted the best available quarterback, which is just common sense at this point, right? Like nobody at this point in drafting. Did you guys see that movie Draft Day? Kevin Costner?
Yes.
I fucking love that movie, dude. Yeah. But at this point in drafting, it's not that movie, right? There's no reinventing the wheel at this point in NFL drafting, right? Like you can do a cost-benefit analysis of the risk that you're taking on when you make these draft choices. And you can't, like, the days of the sensational, like, ESPN sort of, like, destroying the Cleveland Browns for drafting a QB #1 overall every single year and then them not doing anything right. Like, I don't know if it's like that anymore, to be honest, because any sensible fan, if Drake Maye busts, any sensible fan is just going to be like, I mean, we had to take him in that position. You know what I mean? Like you had to take him. Like it was the right thing to do. And like looking back on it, if he busts, fine, but you got to get him out there in a year or two to see, because if he isn't the guy, you don't want to start that timer a year late, because look, then you're Dallas. Right. Then you're Dallas. Then you're spending every fucking year with elite skill players and all these other positions that you built up. And the guy that needs to take you to the promised land is Dak fucking Prescott. You know what I mean? Like it's not, you got to figure it out. And it is, I agree. I'm making it sound too simple. It is a fine line. It's hard. You know, I mean, there's no guarantee that Caleb Williams is going to be good. The signs are promising. #1 draft pick, you know, #1 overall, apparently, according to everybody, a generational talent. That might break his brain. You know, you don't know. So, but you had to take him, right? You had to take him. If you're the Bears, you had to take Drake Maye in the position the Patriots were in. The one thing I think the Patriots could have done differently was lose harder. But, you know, here we are. And honestly, look at the fucking situations around the league. Like, you guys might be the worst record this year, and that would be good for you. Just for the record, that would be a good thing. Just celebrate that. But you won't be the worst run organization. You know, no, the jury's still out on that.
Oh, Ray disagrees with you.
You think? Really? Because I don't know if you know what's going on in Atlanta with those QBs. It's fucking wild.
I mean, yeah. I mean, obviously drafting Penix at 8 was wild. Like it's one thing.
Okay, what about Minnesota? Look at how bad Minnesota fucked that team up. You know, like the
quarterback got injured. I mean, that's different. That happens. But it's like that.
No, but it's. You know what I mean? Like their timing's off over there. They're going 5 games this year. Like they didn't build their team at the right pace. Like they built the back of the ship and then the front of the ship sunk the whole thing. You know, it's like it's a fine line to thread here. And I think that the way the Patriots have started is, and just all I'm saying is you're in this phase. And in this phase, step one, I think you've done all the right things. I think you've done all the major things you were supposed to do to set yourself up for future success. Is that going to continue? I don't know. But I mean, I'm surprised you guys aren't more positive, honestly.
I mean, listen, I will say.
I guess it's because you're used to seeing your team win, and I'm not.
No, but it's no, but once again, the reason why, and I said this on a previous show, but I'll say it because you wasn't on here with us, so we missed you. I'm glad you're back. Because I don't look at it as this is happening right now. I guess I got to shift my mind to. I keep going back to the last 5 years. You fucking missed on everything, just about. That's where my mind. So I can't wrap my mind.
And they still weren't like that bad, because like they.
No, I'm talking about draft wise though. Once again, I mean,
yeah.
They spent money in free agency.
No, totally.
Great, but just draft wise, the last 5 years, maybe even 6. You've been fucking terrible. So until some picks actually hit on the offensive side, because once again, defensive wise, you hit with Barmore, you hit with Duggar, like fine. Because once again, I remember when people he picked Duggar, it was like, what the fuck is going on? But Duggar came up and played really well right away. So cool. He was also 30 years old when he drafted him. But it is what it is. Like,
I fucking hate that, dude. I hate that. I like never check their ages, and now in like the COVID, like you get an extra red shirt, like whatever, and all this different stuff.
Wild.
I'm looking at some of the ages of these guys coming out, and I'm like, I'm sorry, that man should have a 401k by now. Like, what's he fucking doing? It's like, it's unbelievable.
It's wild. It's wild. So that's where I'm at. Like, I can't wrap my mind around like, oh, it's the Rebo 1.0. I'm like, no. I'm like, you've missed on everything the last 5 years. Like, something has to give at some point. And it's just like, and once again, even though, because people say it's a new regime with Mayo, but to me, I'm like, Mayo was still we still here underbuilt. So to me, there's still some things, whether he says it or not, he's still doing some things that's similar to what we saw outside of the talking. Once again, I don't really care about that. That gives us content. Fine. You want to keep talking.
He's trying to turn around an oil tanker, though. You know what I mean?
No, sure.
It's not,
it's like, I'll put it like this. This might make you laugh, Dave. I'm where you are, where you were with Joe Mazzulla, right? Nothing he could do was right. It was until he showed you that he was a decent coach, and maybe you still may not believe that, but he earned a little bit of your respect. You're like,
no.
He was just trash. So
yeah, but
I gotta be shown. You gotta show me. My heart's broken, Dave. I'm hurt, Dave. I'm hurt. My heart's broken, Dave. Okay.
The difference there, though, right, is that he was critiquing Mazzulla, who's taking over a championship-ready team. I mean, this team, the New England Patriots, all we know, and you can say what you want. If Bill wasn't the head coach last year, they would have won 1 game. That's it. Right. And they probably only should have won 1 game. Right. That would have been better for us. But
I really do think Drake Maye I think he looks the part, to be honest.
He does. I'm saying, but we got killed. I'm saying, but yeah, so back. Go ahead, Mike.
No, I mean, it's just like this organization is going to look a lot different than even the gripes that you've had with it over the last 20 years. It's going to be unrecognizable this year and probably next year, because it's gonna feel like a bottom feeder team. And you just have to accept it and want them not to win. Like, I want them to be competitive in every game. I don't want to waste every Sunday, but I want a top 2 pick next year.
It's also just like, the guys, I'm not saying, and I want to make it really clear up front, I'm not saying that like the ghost of Bill Belichick is haunting the grounds, like pressure wise, or like, any sort of expectation level wise, or anything like that. But I mean, just think about going to work every day and you're the boss, and the old boss is the best guy to ever do it. You know what I mean? Like, he's the best guy to ever do it ever. And like, say what you will about X, Y, and Z, that's just going to go down. We'll be dying
as a coach. Absolutely.
As a coach. Yeah, of course. I mean, as a coach, he's the best guy to ever do it. And the stuff that's hanging around on the walls, he put it there, and you're saying like, there's certain things that he hasn't, kind of left behind from the Belichick era. And I know you mean GM wise, but I think that like, he's got a really movable feast in front of him here. Like, there's a lot to take in. So I think you got to give him a little time, even if all he succeeds in doing is taking down the old tenants' photos from the wall and like giving the next regime a blank slate to work from.
Already did that.
Well, but I don't know if he has in like the intangible sense, you know what I mean? Because he's, like Ray's saying, he's a part of that regime in a way. He was promoted from within. He was like, there were promises made to him. he was waiting in the wings, right? Am I correct in that?
Yeah.
He was sort of like told that he was going to be the next guy for a while. So yeah, I mean, you got to give him a little time to walk around and fucking kick the tires. I think, like just a little, because here's the thing. Basketball analogies are good because I think in basketball, any given offseason, a team can add 2 to 3 pieces and all of a sudden become unrecognizable. And that's obviously for the reason that there's 5 dudes out there. So it's like a little bit different to like build a roster. I think the overall roster building is probably insanely hard in the NFL comparably to basketball.
Right.
So I watched Bears regimes over and over again fail. And it's the calamitous mistakes, Ray. It's the night I was standing on a fucking TV show set at like 11 o'clock at night, and I hadn't checked my phone, and I looked and I realized that we had traded up to get Mitch fucking Trubisky. Like those are the things that kill at an organization or at least the leadership positions of an organization, because that happened. And I was like, great, now I got to wait 2 years for this to pan out and this guy to get fucking fired. Right. This guy pays to get fired. Right now, I got to wait for that because of course, right. You got to like at least see like maybe we're all, but I knew in my heart of hearts. Now it's like, Poles is building a nice roster. He drafted Caleb Williams. I mean, he got really, really lucky in a couple of ways because apparently they were all like huffing fucking paint in Carolina when they were deciding to make trades with the fucking Chicago Bears. That is looking worse and worse by the second. That might be the greatest trade in the history of the NFL. Like the potentially ceiling wise, but you look at it and you're like, not enough has happened is my point. Like he hasn't done enough. All the things have to happen now, and you'll be able to tell, and it's not missteps with the media. I don't think.
Yeah,
it's not, oh shit, he did that thing, that really nuanced thing that we all pay attention to because they're all like super fans of this team that Bill used to do. It really is the big swings because as a GM, and a head coach to a certain extent, as a GM, you have to make 3 to 5 big swings in your first 3 years, right? If not more, and they have to pay off. Or at least most of them do, right? You can't take huge L's, but you got to take these big swings. And the first one he's done, he's taken one, and it's Drake Maye. And preseason wise, I know that doesn't mean everything, but I mean the kid looks like he might have it. So
just remember, but he will be sheltered a bit because he is not the GM. He's just a coach.
Yeah, but I'm talking organizationally. I don't mean
right.
Mayo. I don't mean Mayo specifically. I just mean organizationally what you're looking at as a whole. That they're a package deal. No, I mean if the GM gets fired, Mayo's going with him. Vice versa. I don't know who's going to get fired first, but like it's pretty rare that they're not, right?
Yeah, so I'll be ready for everybody to go to Logan in a couple of years if this.
But that's what I'm saying is like you're turning around a fucking oil tanker with these NFL teams, dude. It's hard. It's hard. We got a punter in the draft, and I was like, yes, a punter. Yes. Fuck yeah. We're doing this. We're building out the whole roster, baby. And he's sick. And I'm excited about a punter. You know what I mean? Like you'll in 2 to 3 years, they'll be putting the finishing touches on what they're building. And you'll know then how mad you should be. And I don't know.
Listen, I'll be, but I want to stay there with coaching, right? Because obviously, he's in his first year. Obviously, he was a hell of a player. One of the smartest players I think Bill had ever coached.
Overrated player.
Huh?
He was an overrated player.
Mayo was like one of the most popular.
For what he did in 7 years,
I think you had a Mayo.
I thought he was pretty decent, but
no, never me.
Not you?
Okay.
No.
Yeah,
no.
Mayo was.
I think we had talked about that before, but so obviously, I think I Mike, you could chime in on this first, but I definitely want to hear DK's answer on this because I think I'll be entertained by the response. But so Alex Van Pelt obviously is a dude that basically hasn't gotten any roles until now as a head offensive coordinator. But I kind of want to bring it back to the Celtics thing because obviously remember we talked about he got Joe Mazzulla got to Sam Cassell and he added to the coaching staff and also they ended up winning. So Mike, I'll ask you, who could be Jerod Mayo, Sam Cassell? Because it ain't fucking Alex Van Pelt. I don't care.
No.
Something you could convince me on about that guy. That guy's a fucking joke. So, but who could be that guy eventually? Is he out there at the
Well, I don't know if he would ever take a lateral move, but it's the offensive coordinator in Detroit. Like that was the guy I wanted to come here
Ben
and
Johnson?
be the Yeah, Ben Johnson and be the head
He's
coach.
stuck with them, dude. I got a hot
know.
take about the fucking Detroit Lions possibly being Super Bowl winners this year because of how they've been able to keep that team together.
Just remember, we're on team AFC this year.
I know it's annoying. I've got so many NFC takes,
but
I'm working on it.
Listen, this year isn't gonna hurt Alex Van Pelt. If you really think about it, right? At the end of this year, he'll be graded on, well, look at what they had and let's see how they performed. Again, and not wins and losses, but if it's a serviceable offense and whoever the quarterback is, and if you have a 1,000-yard receiver and you have a 1,000-yard runner, so they say, okay, well, look what he did. Like, he actually put together a pretty good offense with nothing. So it can help him. But yes, Ben Johnson is, and I don't know enough about everyone else's coordinators, but I just know that what he did to Detroit is it's palpable. Everyone in the organization that was an organization of losers now believes that they're going to win, and it's because of obviously Dan Campbell and Ben Johnson. So he's my Sam Cassell.
Dave,
I don't mean to rain on your parade, but if you want to hire that guy, you're going to need to be hiring him as a head coach, right? So he's not going to laterally move to
I know
way worse offense. So it is what it is. But yeah, listen, I'm not going to lie to you. You guys have like a pretty decent, perhaps mediocre, depending on how you look at his career, quarterback coach as your offensive coordinator. That's tough. That's tough look. Right. I read somewhere that it's like he coached Rodgers. He was the QB coach for Rodgers in his MVP season, but they still let him walk at the end of his contract to go to the Bengals in the same job, which I don't know. Like, Aaron Rodgers seems like really hard to get along with. Like, he seems like a massive fucking prick, but like, I don't know what that tells you, Can't wait to talk about the Jets though, Mike, on AFC Day. Jesus Christ. Like, the fact they're the favorite to win that division is bananas to me, but it's fine. Your division. Yeah, it's a tough look, but you know what they could be doing, which really, really worked for us in Chicago, is they just might be the sacrificial lambs. You bring the offensive and the defensive coordinator along, and they're the ones that get their throats cut at the end of the season when somebody needs to be sort of offered up to the fan base as a sacrifice to throw into the volcano to appease. And so why not these two virgins, right? I think if you if you're playing 3D chess like that and positioning yourself to do that, that might be kind of smart because this is a throwaway season regardless. What I would be interested in though is you kind of need, like, he's going to keep his job if Brissett has the best possible Brissett season. Does that make sense? So if they get like a Geno Smith before all those weird injuries type of year out of him, remember, like, was it last year, 2 years ago? Geno Smith had like a decent, like a pretty good return, right? Over 4,000 yards.
You wrote me off, finding it right back. Yeah.
Yeah. And then there was like last year, what was the kid's name on Washington that almost threw for 4,000 yards? He had a decent year, the quarterback. Jesus, why can't I say
Sam Howell?
Yeah, Sam Howell had like a good year. Like, if he has a year like that, I think you're seeing like the emergence of a really talented coaching staff, right? Like, this is going to be a really good test. He's the exact kind of quarterback, I think, is what I'm trying to say, that you can see the impact the coaches are going to have on him, right? If he has his exact range of what he's able to do, right? What a terrible season of him looks like, and what a really overperforming season of him looks like. And I think it's a great audition for your coordinators, because here's the thing. There's a lot of really talented coordinators out there. I wouldn't worry about it too much, to be honest. If he can't call plays, it'll be really frustrating to watch, but it's not going to be any different. Like, one of the worst offenses I've ever fucking watched is the last year of Cam Newton in New England. So it's not.
Even then, they were the top 5 rushing offense. Even
I
when
was going to challenge.
Yeah, but I mean, the play calling. Come on, you must have been frustrated.
Sure, but I'm saying, but even then, it was just like
play calling's hard.
Yeah,
it's fucking hard. Not that many people are good at it. It's just, that's just the way it is. So I don't know. I think that this guy's resume is thin, right? Like, that's why I say he's
paper thin.
He's
thin. Ridiculous.
But you never know. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. I mean, the problem is when you get to the top, when you get more and more jobs, less and less people under you, right? Because you only work for certain people. And I don't know, maybe he just hasn't been around enough where he's like made contacts. And the thing is he came up in this system, right? So the coaching tree of guys that he knows and trusts, they're all doing other shit. right? So they're all like, he's part of a system that's kind of like grinding to a halt at this point. So you go get a McVay guy, or in this case, a guy who coached the Packers and the Cowboys to sort of mediocre returns. So it is what it is, but you got to give him a run, right?
Yeah. Well,
it's a throwaway season.
they don't have a choice, but I do think because the guy that we didn't bring up, it's been brought up on shows here, and I think even nationally too, was Nick Haley, right? Nick Haley was here before, right? And I think Nick Haley is over. He's either in Houston or LA. I can't remember which one he's at, but I think he was on board with coming.